My name is Eriel Deranger, and I come from Treaty 8 region in northern Alberta, Canada, which is in the heart of Alberta's oil sands. My nation belongs to Treaty Number 8, which is the largest treated area in all of Canada, and that treaty was signed by my ancestors in 1899. And they signed this agreement to protect and preserve the ecosystems and the environment that was vital to sustain our people and our culture. Most specifically, this treaty was signed to protect our hunting, fishing, gathering, and trapping rights and our cultural survival rights. Our people are a land-based people. We live in harmony and have always lived in harmony with the natural world around us. It has supplied us with the foods that we eat, the waters we drink, the clothes that we wear, and has allowed us to sustain our cultural integrity as Dene Sutlene people since time immemorial. We can no longer, if the Athabasca Delta in the area where we reside is destroyed, the culture of our people is destroyed. Our ability to maintain who we are through our systems of relationships with Mother Earth would be destroyed. In the Athabasca Delta is home to the Athabasca River System. This river system is the heart of our community. It provides us with a roadway, water for us to drink, and abilities to access our sacred and cultural sites. This river system is currently a threat because of this. This is Alberta's oil sands, bitumen, tar sands. As you can see, it is not a conventional oil. It is a sticky substance that is mixed with earth and clay, and it's not your traditional sweet crude oil. It doesn't flow. It's more like the consistency of like crunchy peanut butter. The area that the oil sands covers is over 444 square kilometers of northern Alberta. 20% of this area is accessed, or these deposits are accessed through what's called surface mining, and the other 80% through another process called in situ, or SAGD. This is a photo of the open pit mining. Dr. David Schindler said there's nothing on this planet that compares with the destruction going on there. If there were a global prize for unsustainable development, the tar sands would be a clear winner. Now, David Schindler has been studying the ecology of the region for over 30 years. He recently retired from the University of Alberta, and he has studied the impacts to the water, to the animals, and to the species. So this doesn't come from someone who does not know the region, it comes from someone with huge credentials behind their back. To understand the impacts that these surface mining has on the systems of my people and the ecosystems that we rely on, this is a picture. Right here is one of the largest operations in the oil sands. This is a toxic tailings pond. This is a byproduct, the toxic runoff that is produced after the oil sands are separated from the soil, and this is the Athabasca River System. Our community lives downstream from this destructive development. In order to access the oil sands, they have to remove what they refer to as overburden. We like to refer to it as the boreal forest. To date, since operations have been built, more than 1.4 billion tons of overburden have been removed. This is more dirt than was moved for the Great Wall of China, the Suez Canal, the Great Pyramids of Cheops, and the 10 largest dams in the world combined. The tailings ponds, which I showed you a photo of, cover an area of over 100, actually this is old, 240 square kilometers. The annual licensed oil sands withdrawals of the river system are equal to a city of 3 million. Every day, the tailings that line our river systems leach over 11 million toxic liters of contaminants into the Athabasca watershed in the Mackenzie Delta Basin every single day. This is the other process called in situ. Some people have referred to it like fracking on crack. And the reason why I say it's on crack, because I'm going to show you the expansiveness of what we're doing. So much like fracking, they take and they steam inject chemicals and water into the ground to melt the bitumen or the oil sands, and then another pipe underneath then sucks up those oil sands as they leak down below. And they develop a series of what are called well sites, which crisscross the landscape. These are seismic lines to test the richness of the deposits. And in the end, you end up with the fragmentation of the boreal forest. This is what our government calls as environmentally benign development of oil sands. To get a better understanding of why we call it like fracking on crack, this is a geostematics of the region and whereby people live, and this is the proposed development. Every multinational corporation from across the globe has an investment in this region. This is not simply one corporation or one single government. This has the complicity of almost every single country, from state-owned oil companies to multinational privately owned companies and locally owned oil and gas companies in my people's traditional territory, in the Athabasca Delta. To date, over 686 square kilometers of land have been lost to surface mining. Approximately 9.4 hectares of land, or 18 football fields, are consumed for each million barrels of oil. In situ threatens more land than mining and represents 80% of the future developments. So how is this? Where is the eco side in all of this? Because these companies claim they're going to put everything back to the way it was. This was our land in traditional territory, the boreal forest, as we have lived within it since time immemorial. This is what they refer to as equivalent land use capacity. And these operations have existed since 1960, and what we've seen is less than 2% since 1960. 2%, less than 2% has been certified as reclaimed. There have been studies done by Dr. David Schindler that have proven that parts of the ecosystem that are vital to the continued cycles and integrity of the ecosystems can never be reclaimed. This part of the ecosystems is referred to as muskeg or peat bogs, and the peat bogs in our territory are meters deep, tens of meters deep in some areas. In fact, there are people, oil and gas companies, that if you leave a truck, a big giant truck, if you leave it too long in the muskeg, if you come back 4 hours later, it's gone. The earth has consumed it. These muskegs are not just vital to the ecosystem's integrity, but they are vital to as one of the richest carbon sinks and carbon sequestration systems on the planet. In addition to the degradation of the landscapes, what we're seeing is a degradation to the migratory patterns of species. We've seen over 60% decline in caribou and bison. We've seen a massive decline in moose, as well as fish in the river systems are now being caught with lesions, cancers, tumors, deformities within our ecosystems, and we can no longer rely on these food systems that have sustained our people for thousands of years, not only because we can't find them, but because sometimes the ones that we do find are poisoned and dirty and not fit for human consumption. These are some pictures of some of the deformed fish that have crooked backs. The moose in our region are getting harder and harder to find. In fact, the caribou are on such a decline that it was once one of our major food supplies. And now we have to send our community over 400 kilometers to go on our annual caribou hunt in order to find caribou to feed our communities. There was another species in our region which used to thrive in the hundreds of thousands. They were called muskrats. They were like little rats that swim in the water. And we used muskrats to feed and clothe our people. And they used to have an annual harvest in the spring where they would harvest thousands of them. And it was a traditional thing that our people did. And now we can't find muskrats in our river systems. Again, we have to travel hundreds of kilometers outside of the Athabasca River system to find muskrat. This contamination of our ecosystems and the foods that we have relied on and the species that we have relied on since time immemorial has led to the contamination of our people. Cancers in our communities, autoimmune diseases, respiratory illnesses are on the rise. And as a part of the loss of our accessibility to our traditional foods in the region, we also are seeing an increase in diabetes and other food health-related illnesses. Our community lives downstream. The river system flows northward, and this area up here is actually considered a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The Peace Athabasca Delta, from this region onward, is supposed to be protected and preserved for its rich flora and fauna and biodiversity, and yet what we're seeing is the continued and cumulative impacts of upstream impacts that are flowing downstream into our community systems and eroding not just the ecosystems, but the cultural integrity and the survival of Indigenous communities that live downstream.